Roll Tide, everybody. It's time for Elephant in the Room with Jay Coker. I'm Mick Gillispie. We talk Alabama football, and today we got one of our longer episodes. We do the shorts. For us, like the shorts, like 25 minutes. And then we do the longs, which who knows how long.
Not really intended to be long. We just sit here in person, and that's how
they go long. Yeah. Well, Jake, I want to do the thing that you love doing the most. I'm going to play the
topic.
And that too. All right, guys, like and subscribe to Cover Crimson and covercrimson.com. Cover Crimson YouTube channel. Bama fans, you can handle doing more things than one at a time. I know that. If this was the Auburn channel, I'd probably say, hey, just do one thing because it'd be too complicated to ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe and then to hit the bell. Oh, my God. But you guys can do all that. And I want you to do that right here on Cover Crimson as we cover Alabama football on a daily basis. Show's brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code NEXTROUND to double your initial deposit. I'm Mick Gillispie, and that's Jay Coker. We got a lot to talk about. Bama plays Tennessee on Saturday at Neyland Stadium. This is really a swing game, I feel like, for both of these teams. This could determine the direction of not only the season, but also the program, I feel like, too.
I feel like we're a better team than Tennessee. I feel like when we're a better team, if both of us play our best games possible, I feel like Alabama's a better team. I think that's one of the reasons why you see that line the way it is. If you watch our seasons prior to this weekend or prior to that, me seeing that line last Sunday, I mean, my guess was Alabama comes out as a 2.5-point dog, and come out as a 2.5-point favorite. And usually, again, in these situations, I feel like I'm pretty good at guessing where the lines are going to be. I think the public's all over Tennessee, 2.5-point favorite for Alabama. It's shrunk down to 1, I think. So I think Alabama's a great bet this weekend. One of my favorites.
I don't know, man. I've seen it the other way. Like a lot of people picking Alabama.
Well, those are uneducated bettors.
Just ruined your whole thing, right? I was shocked that we were like,
make me an uneducated bettor.
Well, you've called me Joe Public many times on here. I'm just like, I guess I'm Joe Public. Sometimes they beg you to make a bet, and I'll make that bet. I honestly, man, the thing that is concerning to me the most is officiating. Because in these close games, you get a crew that decides they're going to determine the outcome of the game, and they'll determine the outcome of the game. I felt like that happened last time there.
Well, the worst part of, you get into the intensity of a game, an intense game, and a D lineman, linebacker, anybody putting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, not do anything malicious, just trying to make a play, somehow has inadvertent contact with a quarterback, and it's all of a sudden a 15-yard penalty and a game changer. On third down, usually, you're throwing the ball. It's usually on a crucial play. These penalties have just gotten to where it's. I mean, I feel like I always watch college football, but it's just really ruining the product.
Yeah.
Well, you're changing outcomes with officiating on plays that are, calls that make no sense. I mean, these grazing a helmet with a hand because you're reaching for the football. I didn't even know that was a penalty. I didn't know what is roughing the passer now. You make contact with the quarterback after he throws the ball.
Well, what about a sack though? And then you see like plays where they're getting sacked, and the ball's like, they're not calling a penalty on that, and the guys look like they're getting smushed.
Yeah.
But you're going to call like a guy like raising a helmet on trying to block a pass. I mean.
Yeah.
It's honestly reminds me of flag football rules. I'm not even kidding. Like that was a flag football rule at Alabama when we were playing.
Yeah, like
really, I'm not even kidding. I was on a good team, the K team.
When you had the K as a ref,
we didn't have the refs. We got one time we didn't have. We got kicked out of the league. One of our teams, and I had to go in and talk to Ken Dunlap and get us reinstated.
Yeah, look at you politicking.
I did it too. That's when they started liking me. I went with I don't know how popular I was at first, but once you get bailed out by somebody a couple times, like, all right, maybe this guy's all right.
Yeah, you gave him a little $100 handshake.
I just went in it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Got him a keg.
No, it was now actually Kenny still works for the Barons. Really good dude. And he does a lot of the, like, when you watch the games, he's like one of the producer guys behind the scenes on some of the big games on ESPN. So he's still involved in sports. He was a great guy. But yeah, him and the other guy's name was George Brown that ran the athletic, like the intramurals back then. And then I became like the sports chair. And then I was like, oh, they just tell me one day, hey, you're our sports chair. I was like, okay. Yeah, I didn't get an election or nothing like that. It was fun. And when people still talk, our guys get together and they still talk about some of those great battles. And they love the fact that I bring it up to you, by the way.
Man, that's like one of my father-in-law's buddies says, you may have beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl and you may have won, the national championship, but you never beat the SAEs.
Those guys were good too.
He always says that.
Yeah, they were good too. You would have loved those battles out there. The bragging right games. I mean, look, yeah, maybe you did it on national television, and maybe you got like priceless heirlooms, and you got to play for the greatest coach of all time. But nothing better than going back to the frat house after a big win, drinking and having a kegger.
Yeah, I played a little let's see, little kickball after I was done with football, just with friends, and that got a little too rowdy for me. Wasn't got a little too serious out there. Had to retire from all organized sports at that point.
Yeah, I'm kind of at that age now where I'm ready to double back into some softball.
I wouldn't mind playing some softball.
Yeah, get us on a team, man. I mean, I'll be the catcher. Like, I'm at that age where I could be a really good softball catcher. You don't even bend down. I mean, you just stand there and pick the ball up. I can still tag.
That sounds like the old Mick special.
Hey, look, at my age, like, I know I don't
stand around and direct.
Yeah, have like a keg in the dugout. I bet you I could still hit
behind the plate.
I don't know. I bet you I could still hit though.
You could.
I bet you I could.
I think you'd be all about placement.
Yeah. It might be sore the next day or two or week. So going into this game, I mean, now that we're kind of like getting closer to the kickoff of this game on Saturday at 2:30, what are the things that you are starting to rest on as far as this matchup? And I've got mine too. I'll tell you, well, while you're thinking about it, let me just throw mine out. I'm really worried about us stopping Dylan Sampson. I think that if we let Sampson run, and he's going to be probably the best running back we faced, we're in trouble. And because once they start establishing the run game, then they start beating you deep, and we're susceptible to that. So, I mean, we haven't gotten burned a lot, but we've had guys wide open a lot that haven't been connected on. So if Sampson runs on Alabama, it's not going to be a fun day at Neyland Stadium. And if they get a lead on us, I think we could be in a lot of trouble, just because the other thing that worries me is Milroe against against pressure, and then, Clint went back and watched the game. And you guys can check out his snap count evaluation on covercrimson.com. And then, and then Mike Johnson was talking about it too. He's like, look, man, some of this is pressure because, he's not reading the blitz, or this is happening. And some of it's offensive line, but you know what I mean? So to me, I think for Alabama to win, you flip the coin, establish the run. And once you run the ball, then you're not always in those predictable passing downs. And then the next thing would be, not letting them run on us.
Consistency on offense, run game, getting the mid-level pass game. Where, I mean, we can't keep having these games where we have 6-play drives, 4, 6, 8-play drives. I mean, we have got to keep possession of the football, and we have got to keep the defense off the field. I mean, we have these games with multiple turnovers and the defense is on the field the entire time. And look, a lot of that is on the defense. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I mean, we aren't known this year for having a lot of sustained drives. Now we do have a lot of explosive plays and we score a lot of points. And, I'm kind of at a crossroads there where, it's not all that bad to score in 3.5 minutes, but, we also need to keep the defense off the field and run some clock and just dominate up front. And, last week was one of those games where, we faced a dominant front. And I mean, if South Carolina is if they weren't so bad in terms of SEC, we lose that game.
Right.
I mean, if they don't beat themselves a lot of times, then we lose that game. And I mean, we can't have one of those games where it's up to, all right, is this team going to beat themselves and allow us to win, or are we going to dominate through and through both sides of the ball and leave no doubt? And that's the kind of game we need to play. And I'm not all that concerned about us showing up just because, you're going to Tennessee. Last time we played there, and I know there's a lot of new faces, but last time we played there, they threw the goalpost in the river, and the stadium's going to be packed. It's going to be loud. It's going to be intense. I don't think it's, these aren't the games I'm worried about us showing up and playing well, because I think this is the game that everybody looks forward to. Everybody's got circled, and I think we come out prepared. It's just Tennessee is one of those teams that they're kind of the same way. They're all over the map. I think they show up too, and if we can just keep them from having those big chunk plays, gash plays, I think we got a real good shot. Now, again, I don't know if Tennessee's one of those teams that's capable of string together 8, 12 play drives, and we just got to make sure they don't do that and don't connect on those long balls.
Yeah, put pressure on the quarterback. The LT Overtons and the Tim Smiths and the Keenans. Those guys got to get there.
Finally, see flashes of a pass rush last week. I mean, it was good to finally see that where, Kane's not having to dial up something in order to get pressure on the quarterback. We finally had some plays there where, we got pass rushers making plays off the edge. And one thing, again, I've been out of it so long, but I always remember Coach Saban talking about, especially playing these quarterbacks that can move, having those interior D linemen. The worst thing about going good on good against our own team was that, I mean, you had interior D linemen that pushed the pocket, and it wasn't like they were trying to get penetration. It was almost like they were just shoving a lineman in the quarterback's face, where it created such a tight pocket. You're backing up and you have pass rushers on the edge, coming after you. And at the same time, you didn't have anywhere to step up because those D linemen had pushed the pocket into your face. Hard to see, hard to move up, doesn't create a whole lot of lanes. Where you saw against South Carolina, seemed like, they were able to push the pocket open. And when things weren't there, that quarterback for Tennessee was able to get upfield and gain some chunk plays on the ground. So again, it's I don't know if that's something that Kane teaches, or if that's really even, something worth noting. But I always felt like, again, with when you're going good on good against Alabama in 2015, man, it was tough to see, tough to move around. That pocket was just very tight, and it seemed to collapse all the time. And that was one of those things I always remember him pushing, was especially against those quarterbacks that can move. Just, it's not all about penetration. A lot of times it's just collapsing that pocket. And man, we were really good at that back in the day.
This defense is a little maligned. I mean, statistically, it's one of the worst that we've had in a long time, but there's still a 5-1 record. So, I mean, it's not like it's cost the team a whole lot. I mean, the Vanderbilt game, though, was terrible. The 12-16 on third. They did better against South Carolina. Somebody threw up a stat, and it was like Nick Saban in his entire Alabama career had allowed one drive that was like 16 plays for a touchdown, and that's happened 3 times this year. That's crazy to think about right there.
Yeah, it's insane to think about. I mean, look, offenses are evolving over time, and it's harder and harder to stop. But one thing I do want to make a point of is that really the off the field in college football has changed a lot. I mean, you almost have to have Coach Saban was the only one that I think could do what he did in terms of the approach to coaching and being able to be aggressive and coaching guys. I mean, I saw Tyler Siskey talking about it the other day about these players, they can't be held accountable because they have so much leverage now and they can just up and leave. Now, again, guy that just ups and leaves over being coached hard, I'm not sure I want that guy on my team anyway. And I think there's less and less room for those guys. But I mean, it is, you talk about accountability and keeping these kids, coached up to a level where they understand, what's right and what's wrong on the football field, off the football field. And I don't know how much leverage these coaches have to really be mentors to these players and be hard on them when they need to be hard on them. I remember I saw, again, Coach Siskey talking about these kids. A lot of them are making business decisions. I don't know how I'm not going to say how true that is, but I mean, I definitely think it plays a role in college football now. I don't know. I don't think kids are about the team as much as they used to be. I think that's pretty obvious with the transfer portal and what you see nowadays. And I don't know if they understand how important it is to sometimes sit there and wait your turn and go through those pitfalls that come with playing at a D1 level. Not quite playing when you're supposed to, or waiting out your turn and learning and understanding that you're not ready yet. I think we're missing out on a lot of life lessons and a lot of development for kids on and off the field. And again, it's very tough for coaches to keep these players in line when you're expected to win and teach them the ways of doing things right at the same time.
That's part of the job there.
It's damn near impossible job.
Yeah, look, I believe that. I mean, there's so much money involved now, and there's no regulations or restrictions. Then the players run the thing now, and they needed a little more control in the past. We've talked about that. I thought it was terrible to see Tyrone Prothro break his leg, and the guy should be a millionaire. No doubt about it, man. I mean, like there was enough money coming in that he should have been taken care of, and that's not how we did it back then. It would have been against the rules. And then now it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm having a good year. I need some more money,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that probably happens. Like 3 games in, like, yeah, probably going to need a little more money right now.
Yeah.
No contract. I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean,
deal with that too. Can you imagine that if every time, you just went to your boss and like, hey, man, I had a good week. You have to up that pay.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much the kids, to be honest with you. I mean, it's the adults in the room that are jacking this up. I mean, again, for some kids, I think they do deserve to get paid. I mean, you look at Bryce Young and Will Anderson from a few years ago. I mean, guys didn't opt out of the bowl. They played for Alabama. They played through injury. They came to Alabama. They proved themselves, and I think they should be eligible to make money. Again, when you tie in recruiting with NIL money, that's when all the issues start to me. You promise a guy a certain amount of money when he's being recruited, and that's where you create the problems. And I always said, to me, I think a lot of these guys are going to realize what they're not worth, and just based on the market. I mean, I'm not paying a college kid unless it is a Bryce Young or somebody who's notable that, by wearing my brand, and they grow the brand. You see kids now that you've never heard of that are making a lot of money. Kids out of high school that nobody's heard of unless you follow recruiting boards and message boards and all that. It blows my mind, and honestly, it creates a notion that especially for these kids, that money is just something that's easy to come by. That's not easily. I mean, that's very easily earned when it's. And in all honesty, I mean, you play football in high school and you're very good, and you stand out amongst everybody else. That's not something that's very hard to do if you're physically talented. I don't know, kids. There ought to be some work put in outside of football in order to earn some of these big paychecks. But again, I'm just sitting there. It's hard to sit on the outside and judge, but it just seems like this is one big mess.
Yeah, would have been nice though if that mess would have started when you were playing.
Yeah, I'd love that mess starting 24.
Could have had a little more cash. You could have kicked some my way. I'd have been a hell of an agent for you. I would have showed you the money. Who would you have hired? Hey, you know the movie. Who would you have hired as your agent?
I did hire. Bus Cook was my agent.
But I mean, if you were a player, you'd have gone with Bus too.
I don't know, man. He came to my house when I was coming out of college. Told a few dirty jokes and had a couple card tricks, and I was like, "Yep, this is my guy."
The funny thing is, I totally get that. We're easily amused, aren't we?
Hey, man, if I can talk to you and I feel like you're not going to take advantage of me, then it's again when I buy stuff, buy stuff I can afford. I buy it from people I trust that I know aren't taking advantage of me or are going to take care of me if something, doesn't go the right way. So, that's why I went with Bus. I just felt like he was an honest guy and felt like he was somebody I could trust. And he did end up being a guy that I could trust, and he took care of me. So, a lot of times to me, it's a lot more about the morals of a person than may make a few more dollars here and there, but if I can trust you, that matters more to me.
Yeah, I see that with you. I mean, I do believe that. Because when you don't know somebody, you're really slow to text back. I remember when I first met you, like, what the hell? Is this guy going to text me back? They're like, when everybody's like, hey, here's his number. And I'm like, like looking, they said he's texting me back. I'm just messing with you. It has been, man, it has been a pleasure to hang out with you and sit in here and, and just be friends. And the reason I'm bringing it up, we wanted to talk about big sexy Elmo, Brett Elmore, because we both work with him on the Tailgate Show. And then I work with him on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel, which we kind of, the show was never, it's like a morning show, or it was,
yeah,
because he's a morning show guy and he would just like come in and read stuff. But if you guys don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, if you know me, but we lost Brett to a massive heart attack on Monday. And I talked to him about 8:00 and he died at 10. And it's like, it's honestly, man, I was telling you this before we went on the air. It's like this week has gone in slow motion, man. I mean, it really feels like I'm in a time warp or something. And up until Monday, it's like, and maybe I was just fortunate, but it was like everything was just going so well, like we're doing our thing, and I thought about this in Nashville, how lucky I am, because I'm like on stage at Live Oak, I got Clint Mountain sitting next to me. I mean, Clint Mountain's one of my fraternity brothers. Clint Lamb. Yeah. Another Clint. Clint Mountain, though. Shout out to you, brother. Yeah. Clint Lamb sitting next to me. You're sitting next to him. Brett comes on, and I'm like thinking about, yeah, I work with you. And then I'm like, I work with you too. I work with you too. And then throw Mike Johnson in there. It's like people I really like and believe in, and that as someone that has spent my life in this business that I would go to bat for. All you guys are really talented in different ways, which is, I think, really like when you're putting a channel together like this. I'm all I do is just pass the ball to you guys and let you do your thing. Okay, I try to stop the and basically that's just my role. Like we're gonna have a fun conversation, but I want Mike to talk. I want you to talk. I want Clint to talk, and I want Brett to talk. And be your yourself. Like what kind of brings you to what makes you someone that anybody would want to sit back and listen to. Like with Mike, you guys watch the All-American report on here. He's so analytical. He can break anything down. He'll sit there and just evaluate. Like, no one watches football to see what the offensive line's doing. I'm sorry.
Offensive line.
Except those guys, man.
God,
and he's going to sit there. Like, he's telling me today, he's like, Tyler Booker's the best offensive lineman in college football. And then he's like telling me why. I'm like, we don't even care. Like, okay, we'll go with your word. But you know what I mean? And they start talking about footwork and this and that.
That's what when I was in college, a guy, we had a guy named Bobby Hart who was a tackle for us at Florida State. And he was 16 when he got on campus at Florida State. He was either 16 or 17, but my roommate was Austin Barron, and they were teammates in high school. And he did the same. He's like, "Oh my God, Bobby's kick step. It's the best thing I've ever seen." And then everybody, it's like I room with 3 different offensive linemen, or I say Austin was a roommate of mine throughout my time in Florida State, but I had 2 other roommates that I lived with, again, 2 other offensive linemen at Florida State. And they always, it was always like, "Oh, best kick step you've ever seen. It's the smoothest thing you've ever seen." Oh, you got to see this guy's punch. It's unbelievable.
He's talking about like he's talking about like hand placement.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like what he's doing with his hands on this play. And then he was like, I went to bed and I was just thinking like, okay, if I do this and this, why are my hands here? Like, okay, but people enjoy that. That's what I'm bringing to people, right?
Oh yeah, you ought to hear. Oh man, Rick Trickett talk about Rodney Hudson, Rodney Hudson, Mobile guy from BC Rain.
Good over there. You need some help.
I could use some help.
Okay. Give me that. Let me see that kick step.
Offensive line guys and their lingo and the way they talk is just, it is so funny. We have an early game on Saturdays and we'd all sit down and watch, the 6:00 games on. And again, I'm watching the game. I'm watching, the receivers and the secondary, and they're all locked into the O-line play. And again, the comments, I'd be like, they scored a touchdown, and they'd be like, "Did you see? That's the best 6-man protection I've ever seen in my life." Like, that they scored. It's like
they can ruin a game fast with all their analytics.
Did you see that chip? Did you see that chip?
Yeah,
that's the best bucket step I've ever seen.
That's like listening to him like break things down. Like we did radio for a long time in Tuscaloosa, and he's so good at it, man. Like just breaking things down. And he's fun to hang out with.
The first ass whipping I almost took in college. I remember one of my really good friends now. The name's Brian Stort, played at Florida State when I was there, but when I was a freshman, I didn't know how to say a cadence correctly. Our cadence was blue 80, set hut or set hit, and I'd go and I'd say blue 80, set, instead of you're supposed to roll the set hit right after the second blue 80, so they all knew it was coming. And so I'd sit there and wait. They didn't know when the set hit was coming. And so finally I learned it was blue 80, blue 80 set, just like they just roll it off. And man, I'd pause that set hit after that second blue 80. And Brian Stork, he is kind of another one of those situations where he had a couple false starts in a spring game, and he jumped on my ass, and I'm like grabbing people, trying to throw him in between me and him. Like, save me. But no, it's so funny. Just the difference between offensive line play and then everybody else on the field. You got your platoon up front, and then you got your guys, in the back that are, the flashy guys, I guess. But it is so funny. It's just a completely different game.
Yeah, it is. And he's awesome. And then Clint Lamb, really analytical football facade, loves to talk the game. Like Clint is one of those guys, you got to kind of slow him down a little bit on talking the game because he likes to talk it so much. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I love when he comes on. He's going to come on the Tailgate Show tomorrow, and he's awesome on Cover Crimson. I love doing shows with him, but it's like, man, I learned so much about just football from him, and we're going to talk about Brett here in a second, but I didn't really, when I came back to Alabama and started covering Alabama for real and not just like hosting the Tailgate Show on radio 15 days a year and just asking Mike and Baron Huber and Ben George and those guys to talk. And I really learned it. I started out on Bama Insider. Kyle Henderson hired me, and I just wanted a place to put the Tailgate Show, digital. I didn't know I was going to be doing digital, and then he ended up, not too long after that, he's like, "Hey, I just want to hire you to do some shows." Man, COVID was a tough time. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll do it, but I didn't know anything, man. Like I was talking about the teams that were in the past because I knew those guys, like your team, but it was like, 2020, and I'm like, well, I remember 2015, like I didn't know. And then over the course of time, now I cover recruiting enough where I know recruiting pretty well. I don't know it like, like Andrew Bone or anything, but I mean, I know it enough where I could get on here and talk about it. And then the team, and the current team. And I've never known football at Alabama like I know now, where, I mean, I can get into a conversation with, somebody like Clint, and I can talk about the backup center and the 8 wide receivers. And because I just didn't know it like that back then. I wasn't around it, but I get that from Clint, because it's like, he just likes to dive into it so deep, it's like, well, if this happens, then this could happen and this could happen. I think that's why people like him so much.
Yeah. The only thing about it is that you still don't really know what the communication is in the building. And while you can know the play call and you can understand, scheme and all that, I mean, if you don't understand the communication and the small nuances within every offense, which there is, I mean, every guy tweaks his own, football is football. And really verbiage is really the only thing that changes, but everybody's got tweaks to certain things they do. And that's what makes each coach kind of unique in a way, how do they tweak coverage or routes or protections? There's some things here and there, and that's why I have a hard time jumping on. I mean, look, I think Kane's got, obviously we're struggling defensively this year. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I have a really hard time putting that all on Kane. I mean, obviously he's the defense coordinator, it comes with the territory, but there's plays here and there where you're like, man, that looks like, I understand why he'd play this here, and if we executed it perfectly, it would make sense, and it just seems like the execution's not here on this play, and then maybe I do something different here, but if it's run correctly, then it works. It's just it just, I don't know. It's hard to put it all on one guy. I feel like there's a lot of moving parts there, and we just need some time to get there. But again, I trust DeBoer. I think you got to give him 3 years. And I know I'm jumping off topic here, way off, but there's just a lot to it.
Well, we lost our best player. I mean, really, you lost him to Ohio State. Had one transfer to Ole Miss, one to Auburn, and one went to Georgia. And I mean, like, it's hard to replace those guys.
It makes you wonder how in depth you can really go.
I mean, like,
how confusing can you make things?
Yeah,
because guys just aren't there, and I don't. Even if you are running similar stuff, just again, like I said, the nuance and the verbiage is different. The vocabulary is different everywhere you go, and I mean, people adjust differently on the fly, and so I feel like 3 years is the amount of time you really need to get to where you're on the exact same page as the coach, and it's just a seamless fit. But I don't know if we ever see that again with an entire unit. I mean, the same guys are coached by one guy for 3 years. I don't know if that's ever going to happen ever again.
Yeah, who knows, man? I mean, we knew coming
coaching
in,
turnover, transfers, guys leaving early for the NFL. I mean, it's just, let me tell you, man, to have a family and be in the college coaching business, that'd be tough. That'd be tough.
Yeah, it would. I mean, it's a tough racket. And, the other thing is,
I mean, when you start out in coaching, you just better hope you hitch your wagon to the right guy.
Yeah. Well, that's anything, man. I mean, look, that's that we talk about in baseball, big league, professional baseball. They call it a sponsor. You need a sponsor. Who's your sponsor? Who's your guy that's going to go to bat for you? And how far is that going to take you? I mean, it's the same thing in coaching. I don't disagree with that at all. I honestly, man, I just hope that Kane's making the adjustments that you make. Like you hear things and it's like when it's not going well, who are you getting advice from? Or maybe this defense just isn't that good. I mean, look, I don't think Malachi Moore is that good of a player. I'm sorry. I just don't. I think he's okay, but I watch him on TV. He's getting beat all the time. I mean, and I think he's out of position. And I think it's probably like this. Like, it's like anything else. Like, if last year he's in a different position, this year he's in a different position because we need him to be in a different position. Maybe that's not his best position, but you do it for the team. But it also goes to show kind of like the strengths and the weaknesses of that entire secondary being gutted. And I'm not saying I don't think he should be in the game, but I mean, when you go back and start watching the film and people show me, it's like he's just they're fast. He's just not in position to break up passes. And then I'm going, well, you know what? Last year that really wasn't what he did. I mean, he was kind of more of a middle of the field guy, and you know what I'm saying? Like in and then what was he last year? Star, or is it? Isn't that what it was? And then
I mean, I think I don't. To me, again, I think a lot of that is, and it's like what we talked about during the Vanderbilt game. I mean, when you don't totally understand your assignment, what the offense is doing, and I hadn't played defense, at the college level. I don't know, but I know at the quarterback position, if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, you play really slow and you look a lot worse than you really are. I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm just saying that I think he's trying to put it together right now, and I think he's trying to I think he's worrying about too much. What his teammates are doing. Is everybody on the same page? It's like that post route for the touchdown on 4th and 9. I mean, can I pass this off? Is somebody going to pick this up? And is this the most dangerous route right now? I mean, do I need it? Okay, I'm going to take it. And then the wheel comes wide open in his zone, and you can say the corner should have dropped, but there's so many variables there where, and then the that over route that, I mean, I think I hadn't seen the wide angle, but if I remember right, the fourth down against Vandy where I think it was an over route and the guy turned it into a vertical. I don't know if he was just, improvising or if that was a called route. But I mean, I saw Malachi saw it late and then tried to catch up to him, and it was too late. But I mean, a lot of just weird plays that have happened this year that it just makes me think he's out of position because he is just slow picking it up and slow trusting the other guys around him.
I hope he has a big game against Tennessee. And despite what happened at the end of the Vandy game, I just want to make it clear, I really like him. I think he's a good guy. I'm not – this isn't like pile on him. I'm just saying in general. I mean, I just kind of feel like that he's playing.
He's a really good player.
He's and he's doing what the team needs him to do. You think in the NFL that's where he plays?
I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife. He can play wherever, and he's physically gifted enough to do all that. But again, when you're playing slow and you don't really understand where to go from a quarterback position, if you don't understand where to go, if you don't understand what the defense is doing and what your answer is, you're going to play slow and you're going to look like shit. I mean, that's it just is what it is. And you don't really get to see what a guy looks like or really have an understanding of how good he is if he doesn't truly understand, what they should be doing, or if he doesn't trust the guys around him. And I just don't know if he's at that level with those guys because they've only been together for 5 games. I mean, that's why I always say you're not going to know until later on in the season how good we are, and you just better hope that we don't, lose our way out of the playoff before we find out how good we are. And you saw us put it together against Georgia in the first half. I mean, we've got the potential to be good.
Yeah,
but I mean, we had a good understanding of what was going on. Kane made the right calls when he needed to in the first half, and we were in the right place. And then, Georgia was able to play, just shoot from the hip offense and do whatever they wanted to do. And then offensively, I think we got out of rhythm and kind of fell apart. But I mean, again, when you don't know what to do, you're not playing full speed. You're not playing 100%. I mean, you're just mentally you can't do that. So I think there's just a lot of things going on. But what I do want to touch on though is, back in the Rocky Block, you think about that.
I was there.
Tennessee wasn't even ranked at that time. We were number 1 in the country. And that's one of the biggest plays of all time in Alabama history, and people celebrate that play. I mean, I don't know if we do that today, if people are that excited or if they're pissed off about the fact that the game was even close.
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, maybe, but you got to remember, like, let's go back to Rocky Block because I'm gonna lay it out for you.
Yeah, I do want to have a conversation about this because now that I sit here and thinking about it, I'm like, I mean, we have gotten really, really spoiled.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
And then,
but
all the
right there in the middle, that's Bricken and I see you up there. That's us smoking our stoves right out in front of.
Y'all look really happy,
Well, we were drunk. I had I called him up. I said, "Hey, you want to go to the game?" I had tickets right behind the visiting band, lower level, and we had a lot of the bourbons. We snuck the bourbon in. I'm going to tell you that now because the statute of limitation on bourbon sneaking in was then. And I remember he looked at me because they were lining up for the kick. And I go, they're not going to kick this. And he goes, I don't think you understand the severity of this situation. And I'm like, man, they're not going to kick this. Remember that game? They just couldn't kick. And then they blocked it. And the funniest thing was this to me the whole night. So they blocked it. We won. And he was always just questioning why I didn't think they could kick it. And I'm telling you, it was because that Turkey 101 is, I mean, that is some potent stuff. Have you ever had that wild turkey? Okay, so you mix that with Diet Coke and you sit there and, drink those for an entire 4 quarters. But really what it was the leaving the game before we took that picture, and I could even pull it down and show everybody. But it's just basically us sitting out there smoking a cigar in front of the stadium. We were out there, and I'm walking out, and I see this guy I worked with, interned with the baseball team I work with, and I forgot his brothers. I think they were twin brothers, were on the offensive line for Tennessee, and so I'm walking out, and I'm a win or lose, I am a very cordial Bama fan. Like, I want people to. It's a game to me. Now I want to win, but I'm not one of these people that's yelling in people's face. I don't like getting barked at or bait and all that stuff. And so I was like, I told them, I said, hey, they had the big player buttons on. Did your mom and dad wear those?
I don't know if they did or not.
The big buttons?
I don't think so.
And I said,
I think that puts a little bit too much of a target on your back.
Yeah, especially when you're the quarterback. But these were a couple linemen. And I saw it. I said, hey, y'all, that was really one of the best games I've ever seen. And but from behind me, Walt Sussin, or however he said his name, he's like, Mick. And I'm turning around. I'm like, what's up, Walt? He's like, that's my parents. So I was being nice to his parents. I was just saying, like, that was crazy how good that game was. Now, what I will say is,
it's a lot better than a Georgia or Ole Miss fan would treat an Alabama fan.
Oh, yeah. Loss. But 2009, we hadn't won the championship yet. We hadn't won one since 92. We hadn't beaten Tennessee a whole lot. It was, I know that Saban beat them in 2007, which was.
He beat them that was his third year.
Yeah, but I mean, and that was Lane Kiffin was the head coach. They were Tennessee had a cocky swag. But whatever. I mean, it turned out to be a good game. We dominated the game, but we didn't score touchdowns. And then they
still way more talented than they were.
We were way more talented. But when we beat them, it was Tennessee. I'm going to tell you right now, Tennessee and Auburn, I don't care what is going on in the world. We beat them on a crazy play, and the sky's going to cave in on them.
I don't know, man.
I got a friend.
I remember we beat Tennessee in that 2-minute drive there at the end, and it was like, oh my God, why was it that close? Oh, they're not a playoff team.
Okay, well, let me say this. I got a friend. You might know him. I don't know, but he had a big sack in that game. Forced a fumble, and when that fumble came, the stadium was like as loud as I've ever heard it, man. It was as loud as Rocky Block.
That's the loudest I've ever heard Brian Denny.
And Rocky Block was the 3 loudest I've ever heard it. Were when we forced a fumble against Tennessee in 2006. They were going in to beat us.
I can't imagine.
And Roman Harper forced a fumble that went through the end zone.
On the ball.
And then we threw a deep pass. Yep. And when we beat them,
Christensen kicked
yes,
you 6-3.
6-3. Do you remember my story about that one?
Huh.
Did I tell this last year? Well, this was before I was like a very distinguished broadcaster. All right, timeout, folks. All right, so after that quick timeout, Bama wins the game 6-3, and there was construction in downtown Tuscaloosa, and Philip Fulmer was the head coach at Tennessee. Which, by the way, I get along well with him. I like him, and not from football. I just know him from other stuff. Don't give me that look. This was long after this. I broadcasted some games with his daughter. She's nice. Like, he's actually off the field. You guys are going to get mad at me in the comment section. Look, as a person, I like him. I'll tell you that right now. And he beat up on Alabama, and we got him that day. And it was the old Houndstooth before they did all the construction. The Houndstooth had always felt like home to me. And we're so the buses stopped, because they have like the police escorts, but there's nowhere for them to go. So they're stopped. There was a guy that had this.
Where the hell were they? Were they going to Birmingham?
They were going up they were going up and over. So they had to go through like down the strip to get to, wherever they were going to go to get back to Tennessee. Oh, the airport. They were going to the airport.
Yeah, but the airport, they go the opposite way.
No.
They're going west.
Yes, out, up, and then over 69. Well, there's so much traffic that the bus stops right in front of the Houndstooth. And this man had made a stick, one of these giant stick signs, and it was a big fat guy sitting on a toilet. But they put Philip Fulmer's head on there. And so as soon as the bus stopped, everybody ran to the front of that outside area at the Houndstooth, and they start screaming at the bus. And I see him, and he's like sitting there. He's trying not to look, and then he's like, and that guy's shaking that stick at him. I thought, man, this guy's they're giving him hell right now. And then really after that, Bama's dominated this thing for a while, but this is going to be a tough one.
They deserved it though.
Yeah.
I'll never feel bad for a Tennessee fan. Never will.
No, I won't either. Or Auburn. But I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, going back to our conversation, we're talking about Mike and the offensive line, and then Clint, and then you're fun to talk with and hang out and give your perspective. And I always get a lot of laughs with hanging out with you. Like you crack me up. Of the three guys that that are on Cover Crimson, you're the guy that like makes me laugh the hardest. And hopefully we didn't get under Dunaway's skin with that comment that you made me make on the tailgate show on Friday. I saw those guys on Monday. Their show is so good too.
Like
I wasn't sure if he was mad.
I see y'all are drinking.
Yeah, that was what LT said.
No, I was like, well, you got a poinsettia.
We gave Dunaway a little shot on Friday. If we didn't do that, it means we don't like you, though. That's kind of how we are. I mean, like, I was thinking to myself, like, should I ask him if he's mad? It wasn't even bad. He should hear how we talk to each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's like that it kind of rounds into Brett, who passed away on Monday. And surprisingly, I can't even believe it, but we had a mutual best friend, a guy named Bull Corey, who was a concert promoter. He owned a steakhouse in Oakman, Alabama, which is like my adopted Alabama hometown, because when I was in school, I worked with him on concerts, and it's how I got to, hang out on Willie's bus and, hang out, meet Merle Haggard and, Johnny Paycheck and Marshall Tucker Band. And these are all my father's like favorite singers, Jerry Reed, and I think I've told you, Jerry Reed asked me if I wanted to see his balls. It's a whole nother story for another day.
Yeah.
But they'd pick on you. Like that's what would happen. I'd go down there to do my job and I'd just get picked on the whole time. And when people pick on you in the South, it means they like you. And it's kind of how you handle it.
Yeah.
And so
find out what somebody's made of.
Oh yeah, man. Well, you get it and then you give it back.
Yeah,
like
right.
if you pout, they don't like you. You got to learn how to handle it, and then give it back to them. So Brett was one of Bull's best friends, and Bull was one of my I really like my big brother, and for years he'd be like, "Hey man, you needed to do something with, could you help Brett? He's doing like high school football and basketball and stuff in Jasper. And I worked at Crimson Tide Sports Network. I've had some really pretty cool gigs, but I wasn't really in a spot where I was doing women's basketball at CTSN. It's not like I had, and then I was like the number 2 guy on baseball. I had absolutely like, no stroke, or I would have stroked myself up to a better job. Yeah. like sitting there at Foster Auditorium in front of all 300 fans, for women's basketball. And anyway, and I didn't really know him that well, but we had a mutual friend, besides Bull, which was a guy named Big Dave who did radio on WTBC in Tuscaloosa. And I think I've told you this before. My first game, I used to work at TBC right out of school with Ryan Fowler. We did a show together, and Ryan's still doing radio. I'm sure you guys know Ryan in Tuscaloosa. And Ryan and I were like a tag team for a long time, you know. And Big Dave, Ryan did a lot more at the station than I did, because I was like involved more at the college radio station. But we got together and did a Sunday show together, and I got to know Big Dave and Wally and Ronnie Corals, and Big Dave was just a big cheerleader, man. He just supported you. So my first day doing baseball at Alabama, which was one of my dream jobs, he shows up. He's got a cowboy hat on, this like 1983 Bama baseball jersey that probably fit him in 83, but it didn't fit him in 2000, whatever it was when I was there. And he's yelling, Mac, and Chris Stewart tasked me. He's like, hey, I think somebody down there wants your attention. See, it's Big Dave, you know? So Big Dave and Brett were good friends. And when we lost Bull a couple years ago, ironically, to a sudden death heart attack. And Brett and I were at the bar he died in on another ironic thing. And I just said, hey, man, let's be friends, you know? Like, you just kind of like, let's just be friends. And then it turned into us talking every day, 3 times a day, 4 times, like girls, like on the road. I'm, you know, no offense, girls, but you guys talk more than we do. And then, you know, but we just would talk about everything for hours, and we just became best friends. And so then that turned into him doing the tailgate show. And then when I started doing Cover Crimson, the tailgate show turned into a 1-day thing in the morning. You know, I do all my real like Bama stuff on here on Cover Crimson.
Yeah.
I still do that too. And then we put the show, the football show on there. And then, and it just had a great time, man. Like, the guy would just make me laugh every day. Like, you know, like, and going back to Clint Lamb, I told him, I was like, I know football. I learned it from Clint. So you just make me laugh, and I'll talk football.
I'll never forget. I mean, that intro that Brett has, I mean, it encapsulated him so well. The sneaking out your mama's window. With him one leg out the window.
We had an open to the show, and he wasn't in the open, and he was like, hey, you know, I got this idea, you know, do you mind if I do it? And I'm like, no, man, do it. I don't care. You know how I am about this stuff. Like, you guys come and you got an idea, do it, you know? And so he brought that to the table. He's like, I think you're going to like this, but you can't, he's like, but you can't watch it until we're on the show together. And so, like, you know, I see that. And there's this place called Wesley's Booby Trap, which we've talked about. It's for sale now, but it was this, you know, this strip bar right near Walker County or whatever.
Who sings that intro song? Is it him?
No, it was. So he said that it was the West Jasper 7, and forever we pretended that it was real. There was really a group. It was AI generated.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you that now that he's gone, because he can't hold that against me. But
I mean, Brett had, you know, that intro, and I hope, I mean, I know you're going to keep that intro that he's got. I mean, that's,
I don't know when we're going to play it.
I mean, it's not the intro to the show, the Bama Tailgate show.
Oh yeah. His voice on that.
Oh,
well, he's got an amazing radio voice.
Unbelievable.
That's, you know, it's.
I always make that joke. When you hear that voice, you just want to hear. Bah, 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 bah.
You do.
Bah, 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 bah. $1 shot. He's getting free.
He would have been a great owner to Wesley's, right? He kept trying to tell me we needed to buy Wesley's together. I don't know that my wife would think that's a good idea. Good investment. So like this happened on Monday. I talked to him Monday at 8, and then, you know, the next morning I go to bed early, and you know that I get tired, man, and I wake up and I'm like seeing this, you know, and I'm like,
when I got that text from you,
you were the first person I didn't know who to call. I was just like, I was just in such shock. Like, I didn't even know what to think. Like, I'm sitting there looking at my phone, and I'm like, and we all work together, you know, in a way, it's like he used to ask me, he'd say, "Hey man, what do you think Coker thinks of me?" Like, I think he thinks you're funny. He's like, God, I just don't know if he knows how to get me. I'm like, no, I think he knows how to get you. I think I said that's kind of what's so funny about when you come on. This like the like when you and Ryan were on there, and his segment would start, and he starts making fun of your shirt. And starts telling Ryan, don't be jealous that I have an intro song. He told about when he told Taylor Hicks that they were both silver foxes. he asked Coach DeBoer what his favorite Waffle House meal was, and then told him that they were going to be best friends. And Coach DeBoer agreed. I went back, you know, we got a video that we're going to play on the tailgate show tomorrow for him, and we went back, and I just couldn't watch much of it, and it's just so emotional because I had so many laughs with him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, it's like my wife said, it's like when he would come on the screen or when you would get on the phone with him, it was like pure joy. I don't know that there are many people that you ever meet that just know how to make you laugh, you know, and it's so underrated. Like
just by being themselves too.
Brett definitely, I mean, I think an easy way to say it was he had a face for radio. I don't think that's saying anything that he'd disagree with, right? And I think that in a way, because he was such a big guy, I think that you kind of judge somebody based on the book and not what's in the pages, you know? But you judge a book by the cover, but, you know, he was such a special guy, man. And I mean, you couldn't spend a lot of time around him and not realize that.
No, man, that's right. I mean, you don't meet too many people that are just that transparent from the start, you know, and I don't know, enjoy life that much, enjoy people that much. And I've thought about this a million times. You when you get to be about 80 years old, doesn't matter how much money you've made, doesn't matter how much success you've had, the family and friends you have around you is really what life's all about. And I mean, he was one of those guys that, I mean, again, it's so hard to say now that he's gone. It's just like
seems a fake, man. But we're both like that.
How many people are going to miss him, though?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten like,
and that's the real currency there is.
Yeah,
and I've, you know, when you're gone, how many people are going to miss you?
Man, I think he'd be shocked by how many people have just reached out, how many comments we got, you know, and you know, like Tuesday, I found out Tuesday. I was sleeping Monday. I had no idea. I went to bed early. And I was just like shocked, you know, like I couldn't believe it. Wednesday, you know, was kind of like, this is real, you know. And then today, it's one of those things like I had to go make a statement because he works with us, you know, like, hey, just an FYI, like he's, you know, we lost him and, you know, put a statement out. And then it was like, well, you know, I thought of, okay, I need to do some kind of video. And he had been dealing with a lot of stressful things, you know, some family issues, some issues professionally. And he talked to me a lot about that. And I tried to be a supportive friend, you know, like, hey, man, we all go through shit, man. It's just the way life is. And then, you know, how do you deal with it? You know, what do you do to deal with it? I don't have all the answers. I don't think anybody does, but I never didn't answer his call. And I never, you know, I was always really like, hey, you know, kind of waiting on him to figure it out. But stress definitely played a part in this. And the last conversation I had with him was about his family and Bull's family, ironically, and and work stuff. And he was so worried about like, hey man, I can't, I wish I'd have done a better job on the last tailgate show. And I'm like, man, we're fine. Get it next time. You did fine. It wasn't as good as some of your other, but his stuff he's so funny and good. Like they're not always going to hit, but it wasn't bad. And then, I didn't know, you never know that's going to be, like that's it. And so I put a statement out and then I put a video out and I thought, and then I go through and I see all of these videos and I'm like, we laughed every video. Like, it was fun. Like, it's like this show. Like we get in here and have fun. We do 3 hours and we don't even know it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which is fortunate. And lucky, that this is what we get to do for a living. We get to go, F around with each other and talk about sports and life and stuff like this. After today, I don't know how many times it's going to be relevant to talk about. I mean, I'm sure we'll always bring his name up. His funeral's on Saturday before the game, 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. I think at Burke Funeral Home in Jasper. I'm sure there's going to be a huge gathering of people that are going to be there to see him. I'll be there. But that's the way life moves, I mean, and then it's like kind of, like you got to move on from it, so as much, and you never will, I don't think, but man, I was so lucky, just to have had that experience, and I don't know what, honestly, like things change. And I think, to me, and I told you this when we were in here before, and you're like, hey, we should probably just talk about this, is that it feels like it honestly, it feels like a couple of times where I've smoked maybe way too much weed and I'm like so high that time feels like it's not moving, like it's so slow. It feels like, I'm sorry I said it. I'm not, you could test me. I haven't done it in a long time, but I would if I wanted to. It feels like there's sometimes where it just feels like time is just going at a snail's pace. And it's honestly, that's how my life feels right now. Like it feels like I can't, like time is just going so slow. And I mean, and I think you said you've kind of experienced this before.
Well, hell, I mean, you lose somebody close to you. My grandfather's, my grandmother. Again, you think about what you could have done better, what you did wrong. You feel so lonely. I mean, I don't know if lonely is the right word. You just feel alone. I mean, you had somebody you love so much that's gone now, and now it's just a missing piece of you.
It's and also it's so out of our control.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Hey, man, you never know. It's like, I mean, heck, man, my wife and I aren't getting along, and I'm about to leave for work. I always remember that. Again, I've seen it too many times. I haven't lost somebody that's really, really close to me at a young age, thank God. But it still crosses my mind that, anything could happen. Hell, I almost got in a wreck on the interstate today that I was like, I mean,
really?
Man, yeah. Just somebody coming into my lane and I'm swerving over in the warning lane. And
they didn't see that giant truck you drive? Must have been blind.
Yeah, had I gotten a wreck, the guy would have just kept on going.
Yeah, he could have seen that Coker 14 tag and known.
I swerved over, got back on the interstate, and I just saw him reach out the window and fix the mirror. Kept going.
He saw Coker 14 on the tag, and he was just like, Auburn fan.
But no, I mean, hey man, maybe it's a weird thing to think, but I tell you what, man, I got a lot of appreciation for being alive. And, I mean, you never know when it's the last time you might see somebody. And that may be a strange thought, but I always keep that in mind. Try to, when you see somebody, you never know if it could be the last, so you better enjoy it.
Yeah. I was I will tell you what, man, so many people reached out and just to say, hey man, how you doing and stuff.
Oh yeah, if
And
people take things so seriously, I mean, what people say, what what they do. I mean, I always, it's one thing if somebody deliberately is just trying to be harmful to you, but I mean, I think for the most part, everybody does everything with the best intentions. They just may make the wrong decision at the time or be emotional and say something at the time. I mean, I feel like you got to look past all that and see a person for who they are and really appreciate who they are. And I mean, really enjoy who you have around you. I mean, I always say, I'm not the best communicator. I'm not the best at staying in touch, but one of my friends or family calls me and needs help, I'm going to be there in a second, and I think that's what matters most.
yeah, I hear that, man. Yeah. You're a pretty good communicator. I mean, people love you on the show, man. Been reading, like trying to read as many of the comments as possible, and
I don't follow up with people and keep in touch as much as I should.
Why not?
But I don't know.
Too much work.
I don't know, man. I guess hell, I feel like I'm gone from my house all the time, and when I get time with my family, I want to do that, not be glued to the phone. But.
Yeah, that's true. I get that part of it, and you could be on there all like trying to go through, even just doing this stuff that we do here. Part of it is I want to stay connected with everybody that leaves a message and want to just at least give them a thumbs up or a heart, thank them for taking the time to comment. But it's tough to do that. It takes a lot of time, but don't stop doing it because we do appreciate a lot. And you read it, your dad reads it. I send them to you. We care. We care a lot. Well, look, man, I think this has been just about it on this episode. You and me will be back at it again tomorrow at at Coastal for the tailgate show from 1 to 4. Coastal has a hell of a gift shop and some great food. I can't wait to get there.
And some good drinks.
Yeah, and some good drinks
too. We'll keep the streak alive of Lance.
Yeah. Lance on there tomorrow. We'll have we'll see. We got to get
what are the picks we have tomorrow?
I'll tell you right now if you want to know. Let me pull it up.
I'm trying to think. We play.
I know Texas is one of them.
What do we play at 6? Or we play at 2:30?
We play at 2:30. So we got a pretty good slate. But I got
I'm taking Georgia in that Texas.
So am I.
No matter what.
So am I. I am too. I'm taking Georgia in the points. It's we got that one and LSU Arkansas.
Taking Arkansas on that one too.
Oh yeah, the Hogs, the home Hogs.
I mean, there's another one. LSU should be favored by about 6.5, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Favored by 1.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Makes no sense. And I'm sure Vegas has somebody on Arkansas or LSU's payroll, and they got it figured out. Those guys are easy to bribe, I think.
Yeah. Well, that does it for.
I'm kidding.
I know he's joking.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. He's making that up. Just pretend you didn't see the last time Alabama played at Tennessee. All right, guys. Hey, thank you for hanging out with us on Elephant in the Room. Like and subscribe. We're brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code next round to double your initial deposit. And this will be the week. He's just gave you some winners right there. The two of us will get back together with you guys here next week. But stay tuned here on the channel. And after the game, I'll be on right here live, taking your calls and talking with some of the people that we have on staff, including Clint Lamb, Jim Dunaway, some of those folks talking Alabama and Tennessee, the first rivalry game for Coach DeBoer. So thanks for hanging out with us, and roll tide, everybody.
Roll.